Transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. They're a degenerative, slow-progressing disease of the central nervous system. There's no inflammation and they're always fatal. It is caused by misfolded prions. Prions are proteins that are normally found in the brain. Physiological prions consist of an alpha chain and 3% beta chain. Physiological prions are called PRPC. Pathogenic prions consist of an alpha chain and 43% beta chain. They are called PRPSC. This 43% beta chain makes the prion resistant to protease, so there is no natural breakdown, and it accumulates in the brain, and this causes a degeneration of the brain cells. So the pathogenic prion enters through the mouth, and then it gets to the intestinal tract, and then it travels via the nerves, such as the splanchus nerve and the olfactory nerve, to the brain and the spinal cord. And then the pathogenic prion causes physiological prions to misfold, and this causes degeneration of the brain cells. There are no postmortem lesions. It can only be detected through a microscope only. The first disease is scabies. The typical type is found worldwide, except it's not in Australia and New Zealand, and the non-typical type is found in Norway. There is no shedding and they have no itching. The host is sheep and goats, and there's transmission horizontally between the feces and the discharges. It usually occurs in winter, when infected animals are in close contact with other animals. Since this is a slowly progressing disease, it only infects animals 1.5 to 5 years old. This is because the incubation period can take years. In the clinical signs, the sheep have abnormal behaviour. They have ataxia, and there are also a lot of licking and chewing and increased water consumption. They have weak legs and tremors, and they die. They also get itching, but this is not typical in the atypical form. For prevention, breed genetically resistant sheep and have mandatory testing for all sheep slaughtered over 1.5 years old. It is tested with ELISA. The next disease is mink encephalopathy. It occurs only in domestic mink in fur production. It occurs when mink are fed meat that is contaminated with bovine spongiform encephalopathy. There is no horizontal spread of the disease, and it only occurs in older animals over 1 year old. In the clinical signs, they have altered behaviour. They'll have scattered feces and they'll have an arched tail posture, just like a squirrel. There is no treatment, and do not feed them food of beef origin. The next disease is bovine spongiform encephalopathy. It is worldwide. It first occurred in the UK on a dairy farm when they gave them protein supplements to increase the milk yield. Their contaminated meat is zoonotic. There is no horizontal or vertical spread. It is only from consuming contaminated meat. The incubation period takes 3 to 5 years, and the clinical signs are altered behaviour. They become very aggressive and they resist milking. They also experience weight loss and have decreased milk production. For prevention, have a ban on protein feed for animal meal, and ELISA test all slaughtered animals over 24 months old. The next disease is chronic wasting disease. It occurs in Norway and North America. The hosts are deer, mule, elk, and reindeer, and it is transmitted through feces. It's very similar to scrapie in this regard, and it's also not zoonotic. In the clinical signs, it's very similar to scrapie. They have chronic weight loss and tremors and CNS signs. Prevention test all slaughtered deer over 18 months old. The last two diseases are basically the same but in different species, with feline encephalopathy and human transmissible encephalopathy. Both occur when cats and humans consume meat that is contaminated with bovine spongiform encephalopathy. Cats, the clinical signs are dilated pupils and altered behaviour, and in humans they get psychiatric problems.